Is it? I guess.
From the Cape.
It wasn't Harkness yesterday. I think they had a little bit.
Little. So you just have to like speak up and enunciate, because sometimes that doesn't pick up well.
The phone microphone, you mean, doesn't pick up well? Yeah.
Why is that, Mike's up?
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Awakened Soul Stories. I hope everybody had a great week. We talked a little bit last week about how crazy it's been. So I don't know if something's in the universe or the stars aren't aligned exactly correctly, but this week seems to be a little bit better. Things are falling into place. And I'm really excited about our guest today. So as you all know, I live in Griswold, Connecticut, and the two ladies that are with me tonight also are from Griswold, Connecticut. So we have Miranda Mahoney, and she runs and works for an organization called Griswold Pride. And we also have Kelly Barrett with us, who represents Matt's Mission. So I won't waste a lot of time talking about silly stuff tonight because we have important things to get to, and they both have a lot to say. At least every time I talk to Miranda, there's a lot to say. So we're just going to start with them. And if you have any questions, I don't have access to our chat tonight, so put your comments in the comment section on Facebook Live because we're running it that way as well. And if there's any significant questions for Miranda or Kelly, put them in there and then I can send them the messages and they can answer the questions if they'd like. So without further ado, first we're going to start with Miranda.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, I'm very excited about it. We haven't seen each other
Quite some
I
time.
don't even know. It's been a long time, a few months.
We still work right next door to each other.
In the same building.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you came to work for this organization called Griswold Pride.
Sure. So I've been in the substance use prevention field for over 20 years. Straight out of college, my first gig. And I've been with the same company the whole time. So Community Health Resources is my employer. And through them, we seek out funding for prevention efforts. Over the last 10 or so years, I've worked with 4 different coalitions in Eastern Connecticut. And my work in Putnam with the Putnam Pride Coalition, and let me just say, Pride stands for the Partnership to Reduce the Influence of Drugs for Everybody. And we are a drug-free community coalition, so we're federally funded by the CDC and the ONDCP, so Office of National Drug Control Policy. And we work together, we bring in 12 sectors of the community to work together to prevent youth substance use in our community and reduce adult substance misuse. So like I said, I started in Putnam probably about 10 years ago or so, and since then I've worked with Eastern Connecticut State University. They had a campus coalition and also the Wyndham Pride Coalition. So I've gotten a little bit of everything all over Eastern Connecticut. In about 2014, heroin use disorders, overdoses, they were just starting to be talked about. And we had done a lot of work in Putnam, and Griswold at the time had a very young adult die from an overdose. And the first selectman wasn't quiet about it. And he was probably one of the first local politicians to take a stance and say, listen, we have a problem. So with that, I was working in Putnam, but I'm from Griswold. Here's my heart and soul from Griswold. So we reached out to the first selectman and said, this is what we're doing in Putnam, and let's help you. So we mentored the Griswold Pride Coalition to get started. So that's what brought me back to Griswold, and now I moved back to Griswold, and I work in Griswold, and I'm happy to be back. So,
Good.
to sum it up.
Okay, well, we'll move over to Kelly. We'll get back to you with some questions
Sure.
in a second, though.
We're happy to have you back in Griswold,
Yes.
just so you know.
Yeah, she does an amazing
Oh,
job,
I know, yeah.
and people love you. We're going to talk about a little incident last week.
Okay.
So Kelly, tell us about you and Matt's mission and what this means to you.
Absolutely. Also from Griswold, been there most of my life. We lost my brother in 2015 to a drug-related accident, and my mom started Matt's mission right after that. She took all that pain and put it into action. She was the president for a while. Now we've switched roles. I'm the president, she's the vice president, and we are a nonprofit organization that exists to end the stigma of substance use disorders, to advocate and raise awareness for it as a disease, and focus on treatment, not punishment. We want eventually people suffering from substance use disorders to be part of the healthcare system, not the criminal justice system. So we work closely with Griswold Pride. We do that. Our big event we just had, our Matt's Mission Celebrates Recovery. This was just this last Saturday. And we're just out in the community kind of raising awareness and helping people out. And now we are needed more than ever because it's just becoming so much more intense out
Especially
there.
after COVID, right?
Yeah.
Has it gotten worse? Do you notice?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. There was a 30% increase in drug-related deaths just since the pandemic alone.
Wow. Do you think a lot of that has to do with, the isolation piece of it?
Yeah, there's a couple issues when it comes to that, or risk factors. So the isolation brought on the mental health, but they were using alone. And when you use alone, you don't have somebody there to call for help if you overdose. So a lot of times, when we see an overdose fatality, the majority of the time they were using alone. So that is a huge risk factor that we're trying to bring awareness to, because there are resources out there, so you don't have to use alone, whether you use it with a buddy, or there's even apps for that nowadays. So
Are they aware of it? Are you educating people
we're
on this?
just starting to get the word out. The apps are new, fairly new, so we're just starting to get the word out. But yes,
Wow.
we do educate the community on that.
Well, because I think that part's important because, as you see this pandemic waxes and wanes, so we don't know if we're going to get into another, solitary event where everybody's homebound again, coming into the winter, and plus you have the shorter days, and there's that seasonal afflict disorder that a lot of these people who have this disease are afflicted by, and some other underlying conditions. So if they don't have any resources to speak to somebody or people, we could be going through the same thing again. And especially where we are, that's a huge concern, because some of those places are so remote.
Right.
And that's another part of the issue is not, just the simple thing of not being able to get to meetings or support groups, and having that's huge for people, to be able to be together and talk and help one another out.
Right, and not feel alone in their
alone.
disease.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kelly, your mom, I remember when she started this, she was such a strong advocate for it, and she gets so intense and just like there's so much passion with her.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a good thing that she had an avenue to channel her pain, because
Sure.
it could have been so horrible for her.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it was on many levels, but this definitely did help. And I know you were living away at the time, right? And when did you come back?
Oh gosh. Well, I moved to New York, which was a little closer. I was only ferry ride away. When did I do that? About 3-4 years ago, and now I'm all the way back to stay.
Oh,
For the record.
Good.
Stay. But yeah, everybody grieves differently, and her grief was to channel that, and I'm really glad that she did, and because we've been able to help a lot of people, and we've always said if we could save just one life through this whole process, just the one, and it's been, we've reached a lot of people, but then it would all be worth it, and we've far surpassed that now, so
Are you, do you have like a fundraising goal that you're looking at, and how do people donate money if you need it?
Yep, so you can donate on our website through PayPal, and we also take, in-person donations at the event. We do different fundraisers, spaghetti dinners, comedy nights. We have all sorts of avenues. We're gonna look into the grant thing soon, but that's a big world. It's a big world.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
I've seen Miranda going
Yeah.
through the grant process.
Yeah.
I walk
Yeah.
into her office and there's stuff everywhere, and she's like, I just have to get this done.
Right, yeah, and right now, our board, it's all volunteers, everything comes from volunteer, so, people have other full-time jobs as well, so we're growing, we'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll
but
get
it
there.
seems like you have a good support system. and
It's
people
fantastic.
helping, and every time I go to your mom's had a few events, and I've gone, and you were at the last one.
Yeah, yeah.
At that building, what's the building? The one on,
Yeah.
one on East Main Street, North Main Street?
I'm just drawing a blank
Oh
here.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
Oh, where
So,
your office is?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Paragon?
yeah, the Paragon,
Yes.
Paragon, yes, that's the word.
There was an
Think
event
of
there.
Paragon, yeah, our open house,
Yes, that's what it was,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, because she had just started, she just put her office in there,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to give props to them. I mean, for a nonprofit to run fully and strictly on volunteers with no grant funding and to do so much is like amazing. It's just so amazing. I know how much work that is, and I see what they do. And I tell them all the time, we partner on so many different activities.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, go home. Like, I'm getting paid for this. Like,
Yeah,
I
right.
got this, okay? Like,
Yeah.
relax,
Yeah.
So it's just, there's such a huge asset to our community. Huge.
Really, yeah, really, and our board members are just compassionate, awesome people, and yeah, it's been lovely to see how the community can come together when you ask.
And you're getting a lot of support from the community, correct?
We are, yeah,
Okay.
more support than not, for sure.
And how's the fire department, have they been both of you, right, are involved with that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
so I'm part of this OD MAP committee. So this brings together first responders or public safety and public health. And this is run by the Uncas Health District. And we work with our first responders to educate them on opioid use disorders, overdose outreach, prevention, and they're very active. They hand out resource cards for us after an overdose. They've handed out Narcan to individuals after an overdose, or the family members of individuals after an overdose. So yeah, they're a huge asset to our community and to our cause, because they're not just saying, well, oh, there's another one. They are engaged in the prevention of overdoses in our community.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it makes all the difference to have a team.
Well,
You
they're
know?
the face of it,
Yeah.
right? They're the ones that respond to these calls, and the families, they're the
Yeah.
first ones the families see and deal with, and if they're not educated on it or compassionate or, empathetic toward what's going on, then,
Yeah.
why would
Yeah.
the families aren't gonna
And
respond?
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they're all volunteers too at the fire department.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, most of Eastern Connecticut,
Yeah.
everybody volunteers. So tell us a little bit about what you collaborate on, like the events and the.
Yeah, so the town is eligible for mini grants through the statewide opioid response. And so I'll write the grants for the town, and then we go into collaboration with Matt's mission to implement our chosen activities and strategies. And most recently, we've done outreach through giving away reentry backpacks. So we are trying to reach the people being discharged from treatment or released from incarceration. And we want to help them establish themselves and reintegrate back into our community. So we're providing these backpacks filled with resources, obviously, but just even the daily needs that they, masks, hand sanitizer, toiletries, socks, flip-flops, because most of the time they're released with just, the items on their cell. So we have been able to stuff them also with Narcan, so they have that available as well, because those first 2 weeks after release is the most risk for an overdose, because they might use the original amount they were using, and now their body is cannot tolerate that amount anymore. So it's a high risk of overdose. for them. So that's our most recent one. And then a year ago, this one I think is really cool, and it shows the capacity of our community to really make changes. That we reached out to the businesses, and we did a Narcan on-site project. So using the data that we've collected from the OD MAP committee with Uncas Health District, we can pinpoint hotspots of overdoses within our community, or locations, not exact locations, but the areas. And within those, we can provide outreach. And during COVID, we were not doing outreach. We were all, locked up. So we put our efforts into outreaching to the businesses in the locations of the hotspots of the overdoses, asking them to have Narcan on site in case of an overdose within their area. They were provided toolkits, they were provided flyers to post for the public and flyers for their employees, so the employees could recognize an overdose and then respond to it appropriately and use the Narcan if they felt comfortable. So that was a huge, it was policy level change that makes a huge impact. Like, you're not just affecting 12 businesses, we're impacting the whole community with that. So we're really proud of that initiative.
Wow, that's pretty.
The tides are changing.
Yeah, they are. Are you getting a lot of pushback? Where people, because obviously there's still a lot of people out there, I'm all tongue-tied, that don't understand that this is the disease.
Sure.
And are very negative about it. It's hard. It's a hard thing to be positive about it, but you have to find the positive in it, like what you're doing, and this potential for recovery, and that's all positive. But these people said, why do you help them? Why just let them go, let them die, let them kill themselves? There's always comments like that. I see it all the time, especially your mom shares some things in some of the communities, and some of the pushback. I read the comments and I'm just like, are you a human being? Like, these are people.
Sure.
They don't care. So how do you? She gets so mad because it's this is personal.
It is personal.
This is personal.
But I think no matter what we're talking about, there's always going to be opinions that they don't agree with ours, and we do it slowly over time. We educate one person, and that person will educate maybe 3 more, and that spreads. I don't necessarily deal with the negative comments because I wouldn't handle it as well as my mom. She does it so
She's graceful.
well.
She's very graceful.
Yeah, she is. So I don't necessarily do that part. But we'll get there. Everything takes time. It's all a process. I wish it would go faster. I wish everybody would just be in our boat and understand. But a book. It's called Chasing the Scream. The author just escaped me, but worth a read for anybody out there that doesn't fully understand it. It really puts it in perspective. Even for me, when I read it that first time, I was like, wow. It even coming from where I was coming from, it still opened my eyes to a lot of things. It's pretty fascinating. So I recommend that to anybody looking to learn a little more. But we'll get there through education and time.
Yeah, and it's, I know I had a brother who was addicted to drugs, and 2 brothers, but you become hard to it. You go through your cycles, right? You become hard to it because they just push your buttons. They, want things from you, and they steal, and they do all this stuff, and you become hard to it. And even after my brother passed, I didn't feel angry with him. I was just like relieved. It was like a relief because we didn't have to deal with this anymore after 45 years.
Deal with it, worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we've long said, it is a family disease, a community disease. It affects almost everyone.
Yes.
So I'm sure and I haven't spoken about this publicly, but my family just suffered a loss due to an opioid overdose over the summer. And so this just goes to show I am, I am in this field. I am, doing this work, and it can happen to anybody. And everything you just said are all the feelings that my uncle and my grandfather are going through. And for me, I knew it was going to happen eventually if, changes weren't made. And we provided help and outreach and resources and everything. And I felt the anger, I felt the frustration, and you know, I just learned, like, you can't treat your family members like I could go and see a client and have so much empathy and compassion and understanding for this complete stranger suffering from the same disease as my family member. But when it came to your family member and you've seen the hurt that this disease brought on the family, it's very frustrating. So yes, I understand.
So, you know, this, the reason for what I do here is because we're trying to bring to light, I think I explained a little bit about this, was, you know, people that do amazing things in the world. And, you know, part of this process is we've had people who are recovered alcoholics come and speak, or drug addicts come and speak. And, you know, and it's not just your average, you know, they went into recovery and then they just get on with their life. They're doing like amazing things with what they've learned and how they've grown. You know, that's what we're trying to encourage here, is that part of it. Is that something that you do with these people that are going through recovery, is, you know, have them come up and speak at a meeting, or, you know, advocate for others that are going through this addiction kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, at our yearly event, we have speakers, people in recovery, and we also do a monthly support group. It was virtual for a bit because, you know, pandemic, but yeah, we encourage anybody in their path of recovery to come and speak, and it helps. It offers hope. It shows that there is a path to get there, and it's very empowering to the people. You know, not everybody wants to do that, of course. That's not everybody's cup of tea, but for those that do, they are, I mean, they're some of the best speakers I've ever heard, telling their story. And yeah.
And I think that by doing that too, by empowering people with this and not judging them, it just makes them want to do more, as opposed to go back to using again, right? It gives them something to look forward to and some hope.
Right.
And I find that, and the people that I just talked to, I mean, the stories are absolutely incredible. Most normal people couldn't live a day in their shoes.
Right.
They couldn't deal with it, and these people, you know, they get knocked down, they get back up, they get knocked down, they get back up, and it's just, I think it's inspiring.
Warriors are usually the term I use for them. They're just
and they were
warriors.
chosen for this path. I believe they were truly chosen for this path because, you know, when they come out the other end, they're helping, you know. And even with this work that I do too, it's the same thing. I always say, you know, I could get up and speak to a room of 1,000 people. Do they all hear me? Not necessarily, but you're planting a seed, right? And if that seed grows in one person after that event or whatever it is, then you've accomplished something. Right. It's one more person that got affected than yesterday. And those other 999 people, that seed will just fester for a while, then it will grow, right? And so it's a slow, you're right, it's a slow process.
Right.
And I have to be honest, like this whole premise for this podcast, it's not something I've never even talked to you about it, because, you know, it wasn't something that was there. And in February, it was all, I was in a meditation and all this information was channeled. And I was like, well, what do you mean I have to do a podcast? And who's going to be on it? And you know, your friends. That's what they told me, my friends. Okay. So, you know, I've been calling on my friends to come on the show and talk about their experiences. And it could be, I have an astrologer, we have psychics, we have people that are doing wonderful things in the community. So if there's anybody that you know that you think that would be a good fit for this, please. Because we just want the world to, you know, we're at this precipice. This is us, the human race, right? We're at this precipice. And we could go either way. And our job as people that do what we do is to pull them back from that, right? And let them see the good that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Even though the stuff that you deal with starts out negatively, it ends up positively.
A lot of the times it does.
Right? And that's what people need to see. They need to see that end result. And that's the message. We need to jump over the negative stuff and just say, hey, this is the product of what we do. You know? And of course, there's not everybody's going to agree, or, you know, and that's to be expected. People think what I do is hogwash or, you know, whatever. But, you know, I can't tell you how many addicts come across my table and talk to me about what they do. And, you know, have I been able to help them all? Probably not. But some of them, you know, I give them resources or whatever information. But a lot of it is, and I find this with the mental health industry, and you're probably running into some of this, is they address the alcoholism or the drug use. They don't address the issue that caused all of that from the beginning. Like, this child was molested when he was 3 years old.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're trying to bring to light is this is what you need to address as the core issue.
Yeah, oftentimes, the substance use disorder is more of a self-medication for some kind of traumatic event
Absolutely.
that and most treatment programs now recognize that as a co-occurring disorder, and that is the future, and it's a present actually right now too. They do identify the trauma and work them through that trauma, so in the end the behavior is just a substance use disorder.
Right. I agree with that, because it's so important, because there's so much of it you don't realize. But I can talk to one of my clients and he'll come in and tell me what's going on, and just through a half an hour conversation, I can be like, so what happened when you were 5? Tell me about your relationship with your father. And it's like, it goes right to that point, because that's the information that comes out. So
right. And are they ready to talk about that?
Sometimes they're not, and then they come back and they talk about it, or we work it out. And most times they're like, I don't even remember that incident. Because they've blocked it out. Yeah. They don't even remember it.
Yeah.
But it's a slow process, and sometimes it's not so slow. I mean, I've had some really bizarre things that have come up, and you can see how it's affected their life as adults.
Sure.
Right? Because they're acting like 5-year-olds. They don't take accountability for their actions. It's always somebody else's fault, and they have trouble with relationships, and everybody's pushed away, and even their family. They abuse their family because that's the only place they feel safe, so they can abuse the people that. So all of this is part of that.
Sure.
It's all part of that.
Yeah, the recovery process certainly is multifaceted, and getting rid of that substance is just one part of it. There's healing that needs to be done, and working through trauma, and getting back into society as well. Society kind of pushes that population away sometimes, and getting back in isn't always easy. That's why even the backpack event, it seems so small and simple, but I've had people say, you have no idea, just have socks. It restores dignity. Just those little things, and it lets somebody know we see you, we care, we're here. So it's a whole.
They don't have to ask for it either. They don't have to grovel or, beg their family for any of that, because you're providing it all for them. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of giving their humanity back to them. And facilitating the healing process, because that's the most important thing to that, is to feel human again and part of society.
And that's a big reason we have to get them out of the criminal justice system as well. Jails, they don't restore your humanity or your dignity. They rip it away, and it's just not helpful. It's not helpful at all. No. So we'll get there.
So where do you see Griswold Pride going next?
Oh gosh, we are. Speaking of the mental health and the substance use, we're slowly integrating more and more mental health awareness and wellness promotion activities. I work very closely with the schools on their social emotional learning collaborative. They've actually prioritized that as a district priority for all 3 schools for this year, all 4 schools for this year, and they have wonderful consultants that they brought in, and they've asked me to be a part of that team. It's from the community approach. So we've done a lot of work at the high school with the SEL committee there, but now all 3 schools have the SEL committee. So I'm looking forward to getting into the middle school, the elementary school, starting small, bringing awareness to the protective factors that a healthy social emotional learning brings to not just your education and the school climate, but themselves as well. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think it goes hand in hand, the mental health and the substance use, like we just discussed. So that's our future right now, is really, not just talking don't do drugs. We don't do that. That didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. So that's not what we do as a coalition. We want to, empower these kids, show them that they don't need to build their resiliency.
do you plan on educating the parents as well?
Yeah, we have some parent messages as well. Most of that is all done through our social media right now, and then I'll utilize like the school parent emails and whatnot. But yeah, they get flyers. We just sent one out last week on, there's apps for parents now. Like it's funny because we had a campaign in Putnam now that was like, there's no app for that. Like, talk to your kids about underage drinking. You got to be the ones to do it. And now, guess what? There's apps for that.
Yeah.
So, and it's called Talk They Hear You. So we're promoting that, and it's kind of just conversation starters on how to start the conversation with your kids on not even just substance use, any risky behavior. And then there's another one we're promoting. It came to our attention this summer that there's a lot of education needed for the parents on how to monitor social media and cell phone use for their kids. So there's actually an app for that, Bark Technologies, so here you go. These are the two resources, you know, there you go, right on your phone. So we're trying to get the word out about those, and hopefully we'll see what happens. Like, it just went out Friday, so.
Are you getting good feedback from the parents on the program in general, or?
Yeah, funny story. I was at Harkness Park yesterday, and I ran into a coalition member who's also a photographer on the side. She's taking pictures, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And she's talking to the family that she's photographing, and they're like, she's like, "This is Miranda. She's in charge of the Griswold Pride." Oh my God! And so this stranger, at Harkness was like, I've never met her, but she knew all about us. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it was really rewarding yesterday.
You've been working very hard at this.
Wow,
it's
lots of work to do.
Yeah, no, I know it's not going to end anytime soon, but and what about you?
The future of Matt's mission, I hope to continue growing, get some grants, like I said, help as many people as we can, but thinking bigger picture, what we do is amazing. But we also, I hope to maybe push towards changing legislation and things like that, because we can help individuals all day, and we will continue to do that. But in the end, we gotta get to the root problem. We have to get to the root of that and fix it. Otherwise, we're doing what everybody else is doing, and just little band-aids. Which band-aids, we need them. I'm not putting that down, but it's a bigger picture. Work on changing things as a whole.
Right, and it's gonna take. I know because you struggled to get the into the political arena. I mean, you got your foot in the door now.
It passed this year.
So you're great, yeah.
So after 3 years, so backstory, okay, the state police implemented a pilot program to connect people to resources through a licensed clinical social worker. It was a partnership with the State Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. So a social worker was embedded within Troop E. And Griswold was chosen as the pilot community. That was back in 2016, I believe. And during one of the political races for state rep, I believe, Brian Lanou picked up on this, and he was proposing to expand this up to Troop D, because that was also part of the community that he represented. And after 3 years, this year, it was finally passed, which is huge. And it was picked up by the whole Republican caucus, not just, Brian. So Republican caucus got behind it, and it will be up in Troop D. They have to iron out the logistics, and then they're creating a statewide task force to study the costs and benefits of the expansion. And I was actually designated to the committee, so I'm really excited for that. It hasn't started yet. But
this is great.
Yeah, it's huge for Griswold Pride. This is a state task force, and our little community is going to be represented on that. So
with your voice too, which is going to that's fantastic.
Yeah, this is really a huge passion of mine. When we were chosen in the pilot community, I had a lot of learning to do, but the state police paid for me to attend trainings with them. So we would go to these national trainings, and the first one we went to was the first of its kind in the whole country, and it's through PARI, which is the Police Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative, and it was formed out of Gloucester, Mass, and they implemented the Angel program. So what they did, so there's all different models of these type of recovery initiatives with the police, but what they did was brought in, you could literally go into a police station and just say, I need help, and they would connect you to treatment. and it boomed. Like they went, nationwide. They put this out there, and people were literally flying from California to Massachusetts just to walk into a police station and get help. I met the man, telling the story, and so Perry has now become the national model for these types of initiatives. And I attended the very first conference with the state police and the statewide narcotics task force, and then we went again the following year. COVID hit, we haven't done that anytime recently, but it was like eye-opening. It was one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and I learned so much. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Yeah, so this is like my passion. I really would love to see this go statewide, the crisis program. So we'll see what happens.
Wow. And are you involved in any of that?
Not that, no, but I support the heck out of it, that's for sure.
Well, you were very involved in the policy, like the advocacy.
Sure,
advocating
that
for it.
part, but, I mean, yeah, I remember when that in Massachusetts, when that came, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's really changing, like,
Yeah.
just one place, but, I mean, once that one place, it'll explode, it will, and
Right.
we're seeing that now.
So are you, you want to be involved in the policy end of it, and how do you?
I mean, eventually, like we have so much we're doing right now, and we will have to grow a little bit, but eventually, yeah, we have to work on making some of these big changes, otherwise we're just going to keep seeing the same things over and over and over again. So hopefully someday I'll be back here being like, guess what we did?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. I told your mom to come when she's feeling better. I know she was a little under the weather. But yeah, that would be great. I would love to have you come back, because people need to keep hearing this. It's not something you can just talk about one time and, oh yeah, they were on like 3 years ago. And,
right, yeah, because that problem's going to stay out there. It's going to stay, so we need to keep talking about it. Absolutely.
Well, either one of you noticed like the trending, changing, age group? Like, is it male, female? Like, what's?
Actually, funny you say that. Female overdoses have increased a lot over the last few years. So yeah, there's that. Other trends I'm not seeing. There's a lot of polysubstance use. So especially with fatal drug overdoses, it's not just, I mean, obviously fentanyl is what is, killing people, but it's a lot being mixed with that. So we've seen xylazine is a new one, and this is actually a horse tranquilizer.
Isn't that a horse tranquilizer?
Yes, it's a horse tranquilizer, but it's being mixed, and that's caused some fatalities locally. Yeah.
It seems like we have a high density in Griswold.
We do. So, unfortunately, I don't know what the stats are this year, but if you look at the overdoses compared to our population and you do the rate, we did lead the state. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, we had to own, but we own that, like it's why we were chosen as the pilot community for the crisis program. We were leading the state in the state police Narcan uses. Our little old town had a lot of Narcan administrations by the state police, so that's why we were chosen as a community. But that's only one reason. They also identified we have the capacity to get this program out into the community with our partnerships that we had. So it was, it ended up being a really good thing. We're doing something about it. We're owning it.
We're not just saying, oh, well, that's what happens there.
Right, owning it, talking about it, and working on fixing it. I think all the time, imagine if we didn't have Narcan in the community. It gives me the chills when I think about it, like it's saving so many lives.
So many lives.
I heard you were questioned about why we saved lives last week.
Yes, I was.
And what was your response? I heard your response and I laughed because I said,
well,
Miranda's usually pretty like mellow, but
yeah, it got me a little fired up.
Good.
But in the end, I think I made a difference with that individual because
yes, you did.
I did. I believe I did because by the end of the conversation, it was good, and I was like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate you. So I was blunt and I was matter of fact, but I was, if it was your child, your brother, your family member, it can happen to anybody, if we can, I don't know.
That's how we change change minds though.
Yeah.
One person at a time.
Yeah,
Just one person at a time. Seems slow.
No, but
One person at a time.
it's more than yesterday.
Yep.
That's what I
more
say.
than
It's like more than
yeah.
we had yesterday. So you're from the conversation I had with this individual, and he's gonna kill me for saying that. I don't care though.
I
just
think it made a
laughed, 'cause I'm
difference.
like,
I know it made a difference because I got a phone call and it was a really positive phone call this week from him. So it was
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
oh, but he thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think that's great.
Seed
I'm
planted
gonna give
and
you the
it
knuckles
grew.
for that one. Whoa. Because if you know Miranda, she's usually pretty you're pretty happy and mellow. So when I heard you got a little fired
A little fired up.
I was like, wow, I haven't seen that side of her. But and inside I was cheering you on. I'm like, go Miranda.
Sounds like it was very effective.
It
So.
was. You need to do that more often. So you're working with the schools. Are you working with the schools as well?
No, we're kind of on. We work with Griswold Pride all the time, like but we're kind of on the other side, working with people once they've already gone down the path of substance use. Yep,
So you catch them at the other end of it.
we do. Yeah.
They're downstream, we're upstream.
Yep.
That's how we like to
Yeah,
describe it.
exactly.
So it's like fishing in the Patchogue River.
We balance each other, Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your brother.
Oh, Matthew. He was so funny. Had such a big heart. Friends loved him. Like I love getting together with his friends and hearing stories because they knew a person that I didn't know. I was his sister. But he struggled, I think, for probably a few years before we even noted or knew, something like that was going on. He really struggled with the aspect of not being allowed back into society, kind of, with a arrest record. Finding a job was difficult. You can't find a job, you can't go to work every day and support yourself. It's, this cycle, and we just couldn't get him to the other side of that, no matter what we did, and boy did we try. And I went through all the stages too. Years and years and years ago, I remember saying to him, if it hurt my parents that I wore socks, I would just never wear socks again. Is what I thought it was that simple.
Yeah, right.
Hey, just don't do this anymore. See, it's hurting us. So just, and I've come a long way since then. So I know, the people that express dissent or, don't agree with, I get it. I understand it. It was a process for me as well. But yep, we lost him in November of 2015 after a lot of battles, a long road, lots of phone calls, worrying nights. Oh, it's just, it weighs heavy on you when you love them so much, and, but yeah, he, now his face is all over Jewett City, and he's not gone, we may not be able to see him physically anymore, but he's still here, and yeah, he was awesome.
And making a huge difference.
Making a huge difference.
He has a it's funny because whenever I look at his picture, which again I've seen it a lot,
Right.
and it's just there's a lot of you can tell he was special, and there's a lot of light around him, and it emanates from his smile and his eyes, and it's an amazing thing, and I can understand why the whole process for you and your mom and your dad was so painful because he was special, and he couldn't see that.
Right.
Couldn't, but everybody else could see it.
Yeah.
That's that's a very frustrating thing.
Yeah. I've often thought if he could have only loved himself as much as we loved him, then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the core of it. They don't love themselves, because if they did, they wouldn't abuse their bodies, and that's a tough thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we all get there at some point. It's just when.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and yeah, it is frustrating. And you had a family member too, so
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that person, just
Well, it's a perfect example of mental health disorder compiled with a substance use disorder, and it was years. Same thing, incarceration and treatment and out and overdose and Narcan, and it was just like she said, it's the same story. And this, he overdosed twice this summer, and that I know of, that, you know, EMS responded to, and the last one, it was too late. So, he suffered from, bipolar as well, and he's self-medicated, I think, you know. And we're just starting to talk about this as a family. Not that anybody's ashamed, it was just, it's been a struggle, as we know, you know, so. And we, there hasn't even been a service yet, you know, it's, unfortunately, our medical examiner is backed up, and this is so sad, it's so sad, but from overdoses and COVID, you know, this is the effects.
That's tough, because you have to drag everything out.
Yeah.
And then it just takes longer. There's not a lot of closure that goes on with both kinds of deaths, COVID and,
Right.
you know,
Right.
this is, it's a scary time that we're in. You know, and I think, again, this is why what you two do is amazing to me, because I don't know that I would have that kind of stamina. I say that, but, you know.
I know, I feel like we hear that a lot, like, oh, you know, how do you still do what you do? I think about it as this, because, like, yes, overdoses are still climbing, and we're doing all these things, and doesn't it discourage you? No. I think about how many deaths there would be if we weren't doing all these things, and that's what keeps me going.
Yep.
Well, that's still an amazing thing, you know.
Absolutely.
You're both, I consider both of you awakened souls, because you get it on a different level than most people. You know, does your and this isn't about religion or anything like that, but do you feel like a spiritual connection to this work?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm
gonna cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. It's definitely my passion.
Yeah.
I don't think that we could continue to do it
Yeah.
if it wasn't, probably, you know, I think that's, you gotta feel it to your bones, and,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you do. It has to be part of who
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
are, because
definitely.
it's a special kind of work that you do, and not everybody has the stomach for it, or you know, the stamina to, you know, just keep at it. You're like a cat, right? We're just gonna keep doing this. We're just gonna keep chasing the fish head.
Yeah.
So
I'll catch that fish.
do you work with a lot of like religious organizations, or?
Yeah, the churches are represented on our coalition, and that's one of the 12 sectors identified that, you know, we need to reach out to, and huge asset. When I think it was 2016, we had a 16-year-old girl from Griswold fatal overdose, and we came together as a community and held a candlelight vigil, because it was the youngest overdose victim in the state. And all of the churches in town came together, and all of the pastors, ministers, fathers, whatever the denomination calls for, they all worked together to provide this, you know, healing event for the community. So it was really,
That was a shock. Well, her death was very tragic.
It was
it
very
was
tragic.
beyond like the drug overdose tragic.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a double
Yeah.
whammy, I think.
yeah.
But I think that's when, you know, at that point, that's when everything really shifted into even both of you doing this work, and, you know, you amped it up, and it just got the word out, and people that weren't even from our area had heard about it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I've had people, I remember when I was in Putnam, and then they brought the people from Griswold, the kids, up to the school to talk about this, because my son Jack was involved in that.
So part of our work is we have a youth coalition, and we work with the youth leaders, or we develop everyday youth into leaders in their school. So that was a joint effort, and we brought in some amazing trainers, youth trainers, and we provided youth leadership training, and it was a joint effort with Putnam Pride and the Griswold kids, and it was something special to watch. I loved it. I would sit all day long and just watch, and it was really special.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I appreciate what you do. I do. It's been like an honor to know you and your family. Really, it has, and you too. Your mom is, wow.
She's a powerhouse.
She's like this tiny little thing.
I know.
But she doesn't take no for an answer.
I've known that for many years.
Let me tell you, when we do our outreach, when we were outreaching to the businesses and stuff, I just would stand behind her and let her do her thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh my God. Well, I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. She wanted an update on the Facebook event, so she's gonna probably not be happy that I'm telling the story, but it was so funny because I know Kathy, so I know she's like, you know, a bit OCD in her tactics. And it was like, I don't know, 7 o'clock, 6:45 on Sunday morning, and she said, well, I see that it's not changed, so I'm gonna just put it on the thing. And I'm like, I'll be home in a half an hour. I will take care. I called her up on the phone to talk to her. It was like not even 7 o'clock yet on the Sunday morning.
Yeah, she
She's
definitely
so
gets
funny.
things done.
Oh my
That
God.
is for sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad for her though. I'm
Yeah.
glad. So we have 4 minutes left or so. So tell us how to get in touch with you, how people can contact you.
Sure. So our first things first, our website, griswoldpride.org. We have a very active Facebook page, so it's the Griswold Pride Facebook page. And then my phone number is 860-841-3803. And my email is mmahoney@chrhealth.org.
And any needs that you have?
Please get involved. You know, if you want to learn more, and you don't have to attend every meeting. There's so many different ways to get involved. So just contact us, reach out through any of those I just listed, and yeah, come learn about what we do.
Great, that's great. And Kelly?
Yes. We also have a Facebook page. I know a lot of people are on Facebook, so you can get us there. matsmission.net as well. We, with Griswold Pride, we made a great virtual resource library, so there's a bunch of videos and stuff. You know, we always take donations if you want to get involved that way, but there's so many other ways. Even just by going through and reading through our website and clicking on some of those virtual resource videos, and educating yourself and others, that is getting involved. That's huge. So I encourage people to do that, and yeah, just learn more about us and what we do, and talk to other people about us as well. Yeah.
Because you've touched a lot of lives.
And we're gonna keep touching them. Yep.
So do you have either one of you have events coming up that people can participate
We'll
in?
we'll be back at the Drug Take Back Day, so we're collecting medications for safe disposal, cleaning out your medicine cabinet, and that is coming up on October 23rd. It's a national event with the
Yep.
DEA. So
Yep.
that is our next big event. And that same week will be Red Ribbon Week, which is like a community-wide drug-free celebration. So
Yeah.
So where do they, where's the event being held?
the Griswold Town Hall. Drug Take Back Day, Griswold Town Hall. Griswold Middle School does a phenomenal job with the Red Ribbon Week, so we'll be promoting that with them.
Yes.
And drug take back, for those that you guys don't know, it's super easy. Like, you don't have to get out of your car. Just drive through, give us your stuff, and we'll get it to safe disposal. It's, how many pounds was like almost 900 pounds
Yeah.
last time?
Well, we collected anywhere from like 150 to up to even almost 300 at one time, but total, since we started doing it, we're at almost 2,000 pounds. We're just shy. We'll hit 2,000
A
this time.
ton.
What?
That's
Yeah.
a ton. Yeah.
A prescription medication.
For safe
Mhm.
disposal, yeah. People are really getting the hang of this now. They
Yeah,
know, and they
yeah.
look forward to the event, so.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's better than throwing it down the toilet.
Yes,
Right?
don't flush.
Right, yeah, don't flush. Don't do that, yeah.
Do you have a don't flush campaign?
They get some resources for them to leave with, yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Don't
my
flush
God.
campaign.
Well, we have probably about 45 seconds left, so I just want to thank both of you, Miranda Mahoney of Griswold Pride and Kelly Barrett of Matt's Mission. They do wonderful work in our communities. Look up their websites, look up their Facebook pages, get involved. We need your help, they need your help. And I can't tell you how happy I am that you came. And I hope you'll come back, both of you.
I'd love to, yeah.
This was fun.
No, thank you for bringing light to this.
Yes, I think it will. Yeah, it affects all of us, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and everybody out there. So, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Any closing words?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll do this again.
All right, perfect.
You're clear.
Thank you.
Before he does that.
That was awesome.
It's like,
Yeah,
I'm so
that's
jumpy.
great.
Was that really an hour?
I know.
I thought it was a half.
No, it was an
That
hour.
went so quick.
Yeah, it always does.
Oh, wait, my God.
She said it always does.